Episode 22, The Breakfast That Keeps You Calm All Day. The morning started like any other. I opened my eyes, still groggy, my mind already buzzing with the to-do list I hadn't written yet. I wasn't even fully awake, but I was already thinking, planning, pushing. My stomach growled, and without much thought, I reached for the usual: coffee, toast with jam, maybe a granola bar if I was in a rush. It felt normal, comforting even. But by 10 a.m., I felt the shift. I was jittery, a little edgy, like my skin was buzzing. Not anxious exactly, but not calm either. Like my brain had a background hum I couldn't turn off. And then by 2 p.m., the crash hit. Energy dropped, mood dipped. I craved sugar. I craved something to pick me up. And by bedtime, I was tired but wired. The sleep didn't land. This happened more times than I could count. Until one day I asked myself something simple. What if it's not just about what I eat before sleep, but also about what I eat after waking? That's when I started digging. And what I found changed everything. Because breakfast isn't just a meal, it's a message. To your brain, to your hormones, to your nervous system. And that message can either say you're safe, take your time, all is well, or we're in danger, rush, spike, crash, react. And for years without knowing, I was sending the wrong message. I started noticing patterns. Days when I had a sweet breakfast, something like toast with jam, a flavored yogurt, or one of those breakfast bars that sounds healthy but basically acts like a candy bar. I felt fine at first. My brain felt sharp. I was alert, ready to go. But then a couple of hours later, I would feel anxious for no reason. I'd snap at emails, get impatient in traffic, feel like something was wrong when really, nothing was. The kicker? I blamed myself. Thought I needed to meditate harder, breathe better, be more chill. But it wasn't a mindset issue, it was blood sugar. Because what I didn't realize is that what I ate that morning had set me on a roller coaster. High spike, quick drop. My body thought something was wrong, that a threat was near. Cortisol kicked in. I wasn't actually in danger, but my breakfast had told my body otherwise. And that stress loop stayed with me all day. And at night, my system still hadn't fully unwound. Compare that to the mornings when I ate something more stable. A few scrambled eggs with greens, or a breakfast wrap with avocado and beans, or Greek yogurt with chia seeds and a handful of walnuts. Not always fancy, not always Instagram-worthy, but real. Protein, fiber, fats, the kind of food that whispers to your brain, you're good, you're grounded, you don't need to chase energy, we're already steady. Those days were different. I didn't feel like I was battling myself. I still had tasks, still had stress, but I didn't live in reactivity. I responded, not overreacted. And at night, I actually felt sleepy, not exhausted, not numb, just ready to rest. Because my system had spent the day in balance. And that's when it clicked. Breakfast isn't just fuel, it's information. It's your body's first cue of the day. And when you start the day on a spike, you spend the rest of it recovering. But when you start it in balance, you carry that calm all the way into sleep. Once I started treating breakfast like a dial, not a switch, but a dial, I began to make shifts that actually stuck. I didn't throw away everything in my pantry or suddenly start making omelets every morning. I started small, like swapping out the sugary cereal for plain oats and adding a scoop of peanut butter, or pairing my toast with a hard-boiled egg instead of jelly, or turning my smoothie from a fruit bomb into something more balanced, using half a banana instead of 2, adding spinach, chia seeds, and a scoop of protein powder that didn't taste like chemicals. Here's the thing, you don't have to become a chef. You don't have to wake up earlier than you already do. You just have to choose foods that speak the language of calm. That means protein, that means fiber, that means healthy fats. And most importantly, it means less sugar up front. If you love breakfast foods, great. Just build them smarter. Pancakes? Add cottage cheese to the batter. Love toast? Go with whole grain. Top it with smashed avocado and hemp seeds. Even a bagel can be tamed if you balance it with protein, like eggs or turkey. This isn't about restriction, it's about rhythm, stability. It's about choosing a breakfast that won't betray you by 10 a.m. One morning, I had what I now call my calm breakfast. 2 boiled eggs, half an avocado, a slice of sourdough with ghee, and a big glass of water before any caffeine. The rest of that day felt different. My energy wasn't explosive, but it was even. My thoughts didn't race, I didn't crash, I didn't reach for snacks every 2 hours. I actually forgot about food until lunch, and for someone like me, that was new. And that night, sleep felt like a quiet welcome. Not a struggle, not a negotiation. It just came. Because my body hadn't been jerked around all day. It had been held. Breakfast doesn't have to be a fight. It can be a kindness. A little message to your brain that says, we're okay, we're not rushing, you can settle. And the beautiful part? You get to send that message every single morning. It used to be that I'd wake up asking, what's quick? What's convenient? What can I eat while I scroll or rush or answer emails? But now I wake up and ask something softer, something deeper. How do I want to feel today? Do I want to feel calm, steady, anchored? If yes, then I know what breakfast to reach for. Not because it's trendy, not because it's low carb or high protein or perfectly balanced by some macro app, but because I know how it speaks to my body. I know what it says to my system, and I've learned that food is more than fuel, it's direction. So tomorrow morning, before you reach for what's familiar, just pause. Ask yourself, not what you should eat, but what you want to feel. And then pick something that leads you there. Something that doesn't just get you through the morning, but carries you calmly, steadily, into the night. Because the road to better sleep doesn't begin at 10 p.m. It begins when you open your eyes. And breakfast, that's your first step. In the next episode, we're diving into something a little more emotional, something a lot of us feel but rarely name. It's called episode 23, I Wasn't Hungry, I Was Just Lonely. How emotions shape our sleep cravings. We'll talk about that quiet ache that hits at night, the one we think food will fix, and how to meet it with compassion instead of control. But for now, let your breakfast tomorrow be an act of kindness. A soft choice that says, I'm with you. Because when you start your day grounded, you give your body a reason to let go at night. And that, my friend, is how sleep begins long before the stars come out. Episode 23, I Wasn't Hungry, I Was Just Lonely. How emotions shape our sleep cravings. It was past midnight. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful. It feels hollow. I wasn't working. I wasn't watching anything. I was just sitting there, staring at the fridge light, looking for something. I didn't know what. I wasn't really hungry. I'd had dinner. I'd had a snack. But there was still this ache, this pull, like I needed to fill something in my chest, something behind my eyes. And without thinking, I reached for the ice cream. Not because I craved it, but because it felt like a friend. Cold, sweet, immediate, comfort in a spoon. And as I sat there, lights off, just me and that melting pint, I had a thought I didn't expect. I'm not hungry, I'm just lonely. That realization hit me harder than the sugar ever could, because it wasn't about the food. It was about how I felt, unseen, unheld, unspoken for. And food doesn't judge. Food doesn't ask questions. Food just says yes. But here's the thing, when we reach for food to fill an emotional gap, we're not bad. We're not weak. We're just human. And unless we understand what's actually going on, we'll keep confusing emotional hunger with physical hunger, and then wonder why we still don't feel full. I started paying attention, not just to what I was eating, but when and why. And I saw a pattern. On the nights I felt connected, after dinner with a friend, a deep phone call, or even just a warm message from someone, I didn't crave anything extra. I wasn't rummaging the cabinets at 11 p.m. I didn't need to treat myself or wind down with food. I just went to bed, full in all the ways that matter. But on nights when I felt disconnected, forgotten, small, that's when the cravings hit. And it wasn't always for sweets. Sometimes it was salty chips. Sometimes it was buttery toast. Sometimes it was just something. Anything that gave me texture, warmth, a sense of company. And here's where it gets wild. These emotional cravings don't just mess with our eating, they mess with our sleep. Because when we eat late at night in response to emotion, our digestion stays active longer. Our blood sugar rises, our body thinks it needs to be on, and our nervous system doesn't get the memo that it's time to rest. It's not just what we eat, it's why we eat that can sabotage sleep. So I started asking myself questions, not to judge, not to restrict, just to get curious. Am I actually hungry, or just seeking comfort? What am I really needing right now, food or connection? If food isn't the answer, what would soothe me just as deeply? Sometimes the answer was food, and that's okay. But other times, the answer was a hug, a voice, a moment of stillness, a cry I hadn't let myself feel. And once I let that truth show up, I didn't need to reach for something sweet to bury it. Once I stopped reacting and started listening, everything changed. I began creating a ritual, not just for my body, but for my heart. Because sometimes we don't need calories. We need comfort. We don't need a snack. We need soothing. And that kind of nourishment doesn't always come from the fridge. So I started asking myself, what would it look like to care for my emotions the same way I care for my sleep? Some nights, that meant curling up with a blanket and rewatching a show I loved. Not to numb out, but to feel held by something familiar. Other nights, it meant playing one soft psalm on repeat and just breathing. Sometimes I wrote a letter I never sent, or whispered a prayer, or hugged a pillow, or looked at a photo that reminded me I'm not alone in this world. I made space for my emotions instead of stuffing them down with food. I gave them language, a soft place to land, and little by little, the cravings faded. Not because I forced them away, but because I met the need underneath them. The need to be seen, the need to be soothed, the need to be told, you're okay, you're enough. Even now, even in the quiet. And when I started treating myself that way, my nights softened, my sleep deepened. I didn't need to fill a void anymore, because I had already filled it with presence. The night I stopped eating out of loneliness was the night I finally saw myself clearly. Not as someone who lacked willpower, not as someone who messed up their sleep routine again, but as someone who just wanted to feel loved. And food, bless its heart, had tried to be that love. But love doesn't come in calories, it comes in compassion. Now, when that ache shows up, the one that says, go get the chips, or just one cookie, or you deserve something sweet, I pause, I listen, and instead of judging it, I greet it like an old friend. I ask what it really wants, I sit with it, I name it. And sometimes, I still eat the cookie, but not to silence the feeling. To honor it with awareness, with kindness, with the understanding that I'm not trying to fill a hole. I'm simply responding to a moment of tenderness. And more often than not, when I do that, when I stop and soften and show up for myself, the craving fades. The ache settles, and sleep arrives. Not because I forced it, but because I no longer needed food to fight my feelings. You don't have to deny your emotions to sleep well. You just have to recognize them. You don't have to be strong all the time. You just have to be present. And when you do that, night after night, something magical happens. You stop fearing the quiet. You stop needing to eat to feel safe. And you start sleeping, not just because you're tired, but because you're at peace. In the next episode, we'll shine a light on something that sneaks into our lives without permission. Episode 24, Hidden Caffeine, Why Your Sleep is Suffering Even When You Swear You Had None. Because yes, it turns out that even when you ditch the 4 p.m. coffee, your chocolate, your favorite tea, your healthy energy drink might still be secretly stealing your rest. But for now, just remember this. If you find yourself standing in front of the fridge tonight, ask gently, not what do I want to eat, but what do I need to feel held? You may be surprised by the answer, and it just might be enough. Episode 24, Hidden Caffeine. Why your sleep is suffering even when you swear you had none. I thought I had it figured out. No coffee after 2 p.m., decaf in the evening, chamomile tea before bed. I was doing everything right. So why was I still staring at the ceiling at midnight, eyes wide open, heart oddly alert? That's when I started digging, and I discovered something that honestly shocked me. Caffeine is sneaky. It hides in places you'd never expect. It wears costumes. It pretends to be harmless. And even when you think you've dodged it, it may still be quietly keeping you up. Let's talk about that afternoon green tea. The relaxing one you sip around 5 p.m. because it's not coffee, right? Still has caffeine, about 30 to 50 milligrams per cup. Or that piece of dark chocolate after dinner, loaded with antioxidants, sure, but also enough caffeine to whisper, stay awake to your nervous system. Even decaf coffee isn't caffeine-free. It's less caffeinated but still carries about 5 to 15 milligrams per cup. And if you drink more than one, let's not even get started on pre-workout powders, clean energy bars, kombucha, yerba mate, and some protein drinks. They might not say caffeine on the front, but turn the label over. Look for green tea extract, guarana, matcha, or just the word energy. That's your red flag. See, caffeine has a half-life of about 5 to 7 hours. That means if you sip something with 100 milligrams at 3 p.m., you still have 50 milligrams floating around in your system at 8 or 9 p.m. And that's enough to mess with deep sleep. Not always by keeping you awake, but by making your sleep lighter, more fragile, less restorative. The point here isn't to make you fear caffeine. It's to understand it, because caffeine isn't evil, it's just misunderstood. It has its place, it has its time, but for many of us, it's not just that morning cup, it's the accumulation, the hidden sources, the timing, and the fact that our bodies, especially under stress, process it slower. So if sleep has felt off, even when you swear you're doing everything right, it might be time to play detective. Keep a log. Track not just when you drank coffee, but what else you consumed. Look for the quiet players: green tea, chocolate, supplements, kombucha, healthy sodas. Ask yourself, is this helping me feel awake now? Or quietly keeping me alert later? And here's the empowering part. Once you see it, you can shift it, not with shame, not with restriction, but with curiosity, with choice. Maybe you keep your morning coffee, but swap the afternoon pick-me-up for sparkling water with citrus. Maybe you move your chocolate treat to lunch instead of after dinner. Maybe you let yourself nap instead of caffeinate. These are small moves, but they add up. They build trust with your body. They tell your system, I'm on your side. Because that's what this whole series has been about, hasn't it? Relearning how to partner with your body, listening to it, feeding it with care, unlearning the habits that kept you in fight or flight, and discovering the foods, rhythms, and rituals that bring you home. From late-night bowls of cereal to high-protein dinners, from emotional cravings to mindful wind downs, from blood sugar crashes to calming breakfasts, and now, from hidden caffeine to gentle awareness. This isn't about being perfect, it's about knowing better, so you can rest better. So as we close this series, I want to leave you with this. You don't have to earn your rest. You don't have to trick your body into sleep. You simply have to learn its language and speak to it, gently, one choice at a time. And every meal, every moment is a chance to say, you are safe now, you can let go. Sleep doesn't need to be a mystery anymore. It can be a rhythm, a return, a gift you give yourself, one bite, one breath, one night at a time.